Pack your bags and grab a real strong airport drink because we are heading off to Monaco for the Monaco Grand Prix. Monaco Grand Prix is a city race through the streets of Monaco. It is the most expensive Formula One race of the entire year, and we're doing this trip on a budget. Come along with me. My travel buddies for this trip include Adrian, who helped me start B is for Build, Doofus here, my best friend, and his wonderful girlfriend, Michelle. And the first challenge of traveling to any race is the traveling part, so let's break that down. I'm here in Portland, which is in Oregon, in the United States. Monaco is near France, which is in Europe, 5,550 miles away. I actually thought it would be further. Monaco is its own thing in the south of France. It's not technically France, though. It's a principality, whatever that means. But it's its own thing. It's got its own cops, it's got its own tax laws. It seems to be like its own little micro country. It's this tiny little red thing right here surrounded by French land. And there are only actually less than 10,000 nationals in this country, which is a very interesting point that I want to mention later. And it's recognized as one of the wealthiest and most expensive places to visit in the world, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, also for reference, here is Nice, and it's about a 10-minute drive away on the French Riviera. I'm going to be doing a full cost breakdown on this trip so you can see how much of a budget it actually is to go to the most expensive Formula One race in the world. Started with an $833 flight that I absolutely ruined by spilling my cocktail into my front tray and down my leg, which was wonderful to sit with for the 10-hour flight to London, where we could look at a board and realize we had to get on a train to another part of an airport where we could get some more beer before we got to another part of the airport, before we could get on another plane that would eventually land us in Paris. Now, utilizing the trains on this trip was a big deal and saved us a ton of money. So we took a train from the airport to downtown Paris, where we were staying for our night in Paris, which after traveling for 17 hours, I promptly ended with gelato so I could be up bright and early the next day. The French transportation system is a pretty amazing thing. They are very, very on time. They're very reliable, and it was a wonderful bargain. So we took a train from Paris to Nice. That zips you almost all the way across the country to the south of France into the French Riviera, traveling 180 miles an hour by rail, which is awesome, and it only costs about $100 to get there. Last time I went to Monaco, I stayed in Monaco proper. This time we stayed in Nice. It was a little bit cheaper, and the city is absolutely breathtakingly wonderful. I loved it so much. I would gladly go back just to experience Nice alone. The beaches are amazing. The people are beautiful. Worth noting, the beach is clothing optional as well. It's a great little esplanade to go on a run and everything. It was an amazing time in Nice. And from Nice, you can grab another quick little train ticket for a 10-minute long train ride that takes you into Monaco. So it's Saturday, qualifying day. We take the train into Monaco to check out qualifying. Now, we don't have tickets for qualifying. So what we're doing is we're scoping it out, and we're gonna check out the fan zone. They have very, very well marked signs and everything, so you can pretty much just brainlessly follow your way through stuff and find the fan zone, a free area for fans to get together. You can hear the cars from this area because you're only, I don't know, a quarter mile from the active racetrack, and you can see the big screen. Now, the one big thing that I didn't think about, I don't know if you could hear that or not, but the TV was in French. Of course it was in French. Monaco, they speak French, so it was all in French. That doesn't really help me understand what the hell is going on for qualifying better than my Formula One stream that I have in my ear. So we watched Q1 and half of Q2 from qualifying from the fan zone. Then I wanted to get a little closer to the action, and we walked down to the track from there, about a 2-minute walk. We found this restaurant that was available, had qualifying on the TV live right there. But let me play this back right here. This fence right here, that is 5 feet away from the racetrack. So what we got was the audible experience of the race cars blasting by us, although you couldn't see it, and then we could watch qualifying on the TV. It was pretty great. The bad part was getting out of here. This is a picture of the jam up of people, and it was an absolute cluster, downright dangerous. Once you get through the choke point, you'll find this restaurant right here, and some gelato, and some cookies, and some beer, which is important because if you go into the train station right here to try and leave, you're gonna find an even longer line. And when I turned around to try and walk the other way, I saw this gate closed, which then I realized that was what was causing the jam up before. When the train station gets full, they basically close everybody off from this gate, and it creates an insane pileup back in the street where I was before. I saw the medical team have to jump in here and get an older lady out of here from getting crushed. It was a pretty sketchy situation that I guess you kind of expect to see in Europe. So I turned around and went back to the restaurant that I mentioned had cookies and beer, and I waited for like an hour and a half for the crowds to go down. enjoying my cookies and Heineken because it was an absolute chaotic scene that I did not want to go through again, and I wouldn't recommend anybody does. So my number one tip is give yourself plenty of time to be leaving Monaco. Give yourself a lot of time for the crowds to disperse, for the crowds to die down, especially if you're not good with insane crowds, which I am great with insane crowds, but that was just... it was downright dangerous. But eventually the crowds did go down enough. It's quite a party atmosphere, so the train station was kind of covered in vomit, but that's okay. We jumped on a train, went back to Nice, and enjoyed the wonderful French Riviera and the nightlife in Nice, which includes some great restaurants. A Euro Cup was going on, and they have their own casino, just like the Monte Carlo casino, but there's no dress code. The gambling minimums are reasonable. It's a much more fun atmosphere. And the next day, it's Sunday, it is race day. So again, we hop on the train and we head into Monaco. But this time we've got tickets. We've got our budget tickets. And this right here is ticket scanning for the Rocher, which is rock in French. And it's a big hillside that you can walk up and you can see the race from it. As you look down, you're gonna see a ton of other views that we walk down. But my favorite view and the best view that I found was actually the first view that you're going to see from the Rocher. It's the first view of the track. And there are quite a few people that had gotten here before us, but that was no problem. Everybody was friendly and made space for us to kind of stand behind them. And right here, that's your view of the race. Now, some people are gonna say, well, that's not a very good view of the race. I wanna see more, blah, 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 blah. Keep in mind, if you're expecting to see a big span of racetrack in Monaco, you're spending 2,000–3,000 euro. What this had was us able to keep pace of every single car, see how they were doing in the race. We could see the pit entrance and see when the cars went in and pitted, which was epic because not many other places had a view of that, and we could hear the announcers. I don't think I'm wrong when I say there was no passing done in this entire race anyways, so it's not like you're trying to get a view of some good passes or action like that. I think seeing the pit entrance is a great view. And as the race went on, a lot of people couldn't hang. They started getting tired, falling asleep, and they left, which made a lot more room for me and Adrian. So we had the whole place to ourselves, an uninterrupted view. And because of the red flag, it was a long one. But luckily they sell food, they sell beer, we brought sunscreen. We were having a blast. And this race in particular was a historic moment to see, which was very cool because, spoiler alert, Charles Leclerc, a Monegasque driver, meaning he is one of those 10,000 Monaco nationals, which is an extremely small number to think that somebody from a town that small could grow up, become a Formula One race driver, and drive in his hometown race and win. He's the first Monegasque driver to win in the last 93 years of Formula One in Monaco. And you can see on the sign right in front of me, it's been going for almost 100 years. So it was incredible, and the crowd and the yachts and the mega yachts were all blaring their horns. All in celebration for the Monegasque driver. The town of Monaco and the town of Nice were all extremely proud, well organized, good fun parties erupted. But if I'm being honest, I didn't really want to hang out and party in Monaco. I had my sights set on something else. So we fought the crowds, we jumped back on a train, and we got back to Nice so we could jump in the ocean before the sun had set. I'd been wanting to go swim in this sea, and it did not disappoint. It was a really, really good time. So let's do a price breakdown. How much does it cost to go to the most expensive Formula One race in the world? Well, to buy your cheap grandstand seat here, the cheapest one that I found was about 1,300 euro, which equals out to right now about 1,400 US dollars. Sorry, Europeans. Keep that in mind while we're totaling this up. The flight from Portland, Oregon to Paris was $833. Once we landed, our first night when we stayed in Paris was $208 a person for our Airbnb. Then we hopped a $100 train from Paris to Nice. Our flat in Nice was an amazing bargain. It was $130 a night, and we stayed 2 nights. And again, that's per person, 3 people. And our viewing tickets for the Sunday race of the Rocher were only $53. The train between Nice and Monaco is usually $5, but it was so overcrowded that it was free. So that totals out to $1,454, which is like 50 bucks more than your cheapest grandstand seats. And when you consider that I got to go to these amazing places and got a free trip to Europe out of it, I think it's a hell of a deal. 10 out of 10. Would go again. Better view than my $200 Las Vegas Grand Prix on the budget. And when you think about it, that one's pretty much cheaper because I stayed less time and didn't have to fly across the country. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe and tell your mom about my YouTube channel.